Scopa's Themba Gordy is with us here on Newsnight after 8 o'clock on that story. Now, doctors tonight are sounding the alarm over South Africans' unhealthy lifestyles. A brand new survey has revealed that more than 60% of the population is either overweight, obese or morbidly obese. Experts are now warning that unless we change our lifestyles, the problem's only going to get bigger. A separate study by the Medical Research Council has found that 3 people die every hour from obesity-related conditions.
Surveying 500 people from the country's major cities, the Health of the Nation survey revealed 2 out of every 3 South Africans are either overweight, obese or morbidly obese, with South African women worse off than men, and it's claiming lives every day.
This essentially is an epidemic that is going to be facing South Africa and many Western populations for the next 20 years. It's a huge burden on society. Around 60 people are dying every day in South Africa from diseases related to obesity. So we as a nation need to wake up.
Ironically though, the survey also found that despite their battle with the bulge, just over half of obese people seem to think they're healthy. Doctors warn the heavier you become, the lower your life expectancy.
This leads the seeds to vascular problems within the heart particularly, and leads also to problems related to stroke. So it augments risk factors such as high blood pressure, cholesterol problems, sugar problems.
Let's face it, as South Africans, many of us love getting together, eating and drinking. But with more than half of our population overweight, experts say we need to start eating healthier and exercising more. And unless we get it right, researchers predict obesity will in years become one of the top 3 health challenges to face the country. Vanessa Govender, eNews, Johannesburg.
So what lies behind our increasing obesity levels? We're now joined by dietitian Celynn Erasmus. Celynn, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Quite a startling statistics. 60% of South Africans are either overweight or obese, but most of them are in denial about that. What's driving that denialism?
Well, I think a lot of people just don't realize how their lifestyle and what impact it has in terms of their weight. I find a lot of people, especially adults, the weight creeps on slowly, a kilo every year, and before you know it, you're perhaps 5 or 10 or 20% overweight, and that's what's happening.
What are some of the factors here in South Africa specifically that are driving up obesity? We know that in the States it's been blamed mostly on soft drinks and fast food. Are we eating the same things?
We absolutely are following the trends in terms of that Western approach where our lifestyles are so on the go, our lives are 24/7. People leave home in the dark, they get home in the dark, and often they don't stop to think that they could just be giving up their health to build their wealth, and in the end that doesn't help, because we know that health is everything, and there's just such easy access to the wrong stuff, to food that's high in fat, high in kilojoules and very calorie dense, and I think there's a lot of ignorance, there's a lot of information, it's true, about healthy eating, but people just, I think there could be too much information. There's a lot of controversy, misinformation, people are not sure, and confusion, so they just don't know what they should be doing.
Speaking of misinformation, according to this research, a lot of people seem to think that healthier food is more expensive, and that's not true, is it?
Short term it could be true. I think if you had to compare basket for basket, it may seem more expensive, but we know in the long term that if you're eating healthier food, you're actually fuller for longer, so you actually end up eating less, and of course there's the health benefits, and you have greater energy and engagement, and you feel better, so you save a lot in terms of the long term health expenses.
What role does poverty play in a country like South Africa, where there's a lot of underdevelopment, into that weight outlook?
Well, what's quite interesting is that in the past we used to have the double burden of disease with malnutrition played out against obesity or overnutrition, but now we're seeing that more people are overnourished or overweight as opposed to those that are not. And yeah, we also see a lot of people moving from rural areas into the urban areas, and with that urbanization we see absolutely they pick up bad habits. There's a lot more fast food being eaten and convenience eating, and that's having a really bad effect on our waistline and our health.
All right, looking at some of the stats coming out of this study saying that Cape Townians are the worst affected, with 72% of them overweight, followed by people living in Pretoria at 68%, Johannesburg 59%, and Durban 52%. What would be playing out differently in those areas?
I think we could say that comes down to cultures, because that came out from the survey that we did, that it was more the colours as such that were perhaps making the poorer choices and not exercising as much, and we know that a lot of them do stay in the Cape, so it's purely that.
So demographics come into play as well, and how does that work out, demographics and gender?
Well, what we find is Africa is that the fairer sex seems to be carrying a little bit more weight around the waist, and perhaps it has to do with lifestyle.
That's biological, isn't
yes,
it?
And I know, a lot of women, once they have their first child or go through pregnancy, they often put on weight and they don't manage to lose it all, and then it does creep on as such.
All right, and race-wise, demographics, it's just mostly in the Western Cape that there is a bigger problem.
Yes, although if we look all over South Africa, it tends to be a general trend with just over 60% of South Africans being overweight. But what is most alarming is the attitude towards that, is that we don't seem to be making the link between being overweight and that affecting our health and longevity.
So how are we going to get this right in terms of changing the attitudes, in terms of changing our lifestyle and our dietary habits?
It's a great question, and I think the one thing we need to do is set ourselves up for success. That means don't try and change everything on a Monday morning. Rather change one thing at a time and create new habits, and don't go on a diet as such, but rather go on a lifestyle where you create a support structure that fits your lifestyle, fits your family, your working life. And, you know, because often we go on diets which are not safe at all. They're very short-term, short-lived. They're about deprivation and denial, and we really can't sustain them. And if you want to lose weight and keep it off and do it safely, you need to do it in such a way that it's part of your lifestyle, that it lasts longer than just a week or two or maybe a month.
Physical activity.
Absolutely. One of the success factors that we see with people who lose weight and keep it off is that they do start becoming more physically active. And exercise doesn't have to be specifically going to a gym or an aerobics class. It can be incorporated into your daily life. Simply walking more, becoming more aware of how you can garden or be more active with your children, for instance.
All right, Celynn, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That was Celynn Erasmus. She is a dietitian.